Hello everyone and welcome to Don't Be Bored. This is a bit of a special one as in part it's a thank you because I've just hit 2,000 subscribers, so I thought I'd do this sort of special video of the highs and lows of Board Game Geek in my collection. Let's go through like the highest weight, the lowest weight and a few other little things in there from Board Game Geek. I've looked at some statistics and this is what I've pulled out. So let's kick this off with the heaviest game in my collection, and to be honest, based on the box size, it's probably the heaviest in terms of rule set, according to Board Game Geek, but also one of the heaviest games to actually lift, and that's Twilight Imperium 4. This is a fantastic space opera. Not only are you building loads of ships and then crashing them into your friends' big bunch of ships to try and take their planet off them, you're doing sort of intriguey sort of stuff where you're doing dodgy deals with this person that you can deal with. Oh, I'll give you some commodities and then you can not attack me, or I'm going to control that planet. Will they sort of hold up their end of that deal? Then you've got stuff that comes out of a deck. When the middle Metal Rex planet is taken, a whole extra phase of the game is unlocked where laws are brought in. No longer can you buy two ships, two little scouting fighters at once. It's one per purchase. That means they're effectively half as good, or that action is half as good. Do you really want to vote that in? Maybe one of your opponents is doing lots of fighters. Well, let's vote it in so we can curb that off. There's plenty going on in this big game, but actually it doesn't feel like it should be the weightiest game in my collection, because even after my very first play, I came out of it thinking that was really good, rather than, oof, I'm exhausted, I've just played a really heavy game. And I think in part that's because it takes place over like 6 to 8 hours. 6 hours for 4 players is fairly standard, we've found. So, you know, it's still a very long game. Lots of the time, it's your choices have lots of ramifications and you have a number of things to do. You have like 8, 10 different types of ships, but if you've played many sort of real-time strategy games or anything like that on PC, certainly if they're based in space, I don't think Twilight Imperium feels that heavy. But what was the next game? The next heaviest? That is apparently Brass Birmingham. Yeah, this one's got a few rules that I do think makes it quite heavy, and that is, in most part, right, iron is in small quantities, so I don't need it to be part of my network, but coal does need to be part of my network. I'm using coal. Where do I take that from? When do I need the beer barrels connected in my network or a network? And there's just a few little things there about that network sort of part. The rest of it actually I think makes quite a lot of sense in terms of, normally if you're selling something you need to be able to trace a line somewhere, or you're levelling up your buildings, and in the first phase of the game it's all on barges. The second phase, barges are sort of outdated, it's all about the train lines. There's plenty going on in this game, but Brass Birmingham is a really good fun one, and I think it wasn't necessarily too high in my top 100, but I think it would go higher if I could get it back to the table more regularly. But yeah, it's a very, well, fairly heavy game. There's definitely ones out there that are more complicated, but that's probably my sort of happy limit. And just to mention 2 more on the heavy side of things, the next one will be Ark Nova and then Great Western Trail. Interestingly, that apparently Terraforming Mars is like my 9th heaviest. I certainly found, coming out of the very first play of Terraforming Mars, my head was boggled. Every card was unique. I read so much going on. I didn't really get that with Ark Nova or Great Western Trail to the same extent, and to me that's how I determine how heavy or brain-burny a game is, if I've come out of it like zonked. Maybe because I played Terraforming Mars and so many other games, maybe that makes Ark Nova or whatever easier. I'm used to looking at symbols and stuff, but Now let's jump to the other end of the spectrum and look at the lightest games. Unsurprisingly, a lot of the lightest games are dexterity based. So one of the ones that's, because they're all kind of rated at one that I would 100% highlight is Catch the Moon. We've had so much fun with this. There's a sort of a newer version out, but from what I can tell, the actual gameplay is identical. And in fact, the components seem identical as well. It's just like the box cover's been revamped a bit. But you are rolling a dice, and that will tell you, normally I'd hate that, but it just very simply tells you, are you adding a ladder and it's got to touch one ladder, it's got to touch two ladders, or it must be the tallest thing on this structure. And at the start of the game, touching only one ladder, oh, that's super easy. Being the tallest, that's kind of easy as well. Later on, there's a lot of ladders balanced. Only touching one is probably going to be quite hard. And then you've got balancing these ladders all over, and it's just a lot of fun, because at some point that pile of ladders is going to fall, and that's when like that person takes one of these teardrops, which is effectively a point, and you don't want points in this game. Whoever's got the least of them at the end is going to win, but the twist, whoever takes the last one is eliminated. So even if you're sat there in the final round, there's one left to take, you could still lose. And that's quite a sort of a little extra to make sure it's always exciting. One of the other one-weight games in my collection is called Mars Open Tabletop Golf. And well, this is fairly easy to teach anyone. As soon as you tell them, you flick this thing and are trying to get it in the hole at the other side of the table. Because you set up this golf course, effectively, and, well, that's pretty much the entire rules. You don't want to flick it into a barricade, you don't want to flick it off the table, you're just trying to get it with as few shots as possible from one end to the other. And that's what a rating of one weight really should be. They should be quick, snappy rules that, well, they're super intuitive to play. And, well, Mars Open Tabletop Golf is exactly that. You can put it on a table in front of someone. They could watch one person have a turn, not ask you a single thing, and know exactly how to play the game. And, well, it doesn't hurt. It's quite a fun game to play as well. For a non-dexterity game that's still rated as one, well, there's probably one company that's really going to vibe with that, and that is Big Potato Games. And there's two that I basically say are almost identical, but not. You've got Top of the Pops, the game, and Blockbuster, the game. Now, I think they've actually even released like a two-player only version of Blockbuster now, so you can even play it with a party game with fewer people, not the two of you. But these are just classic ones that you think about when you think of a family game night. The Top of the Pops one is all about music. The Blockbuster one is all about films and genres in music or genres in films. You are effectively trying to get a card from each genre, doesn't matter which game you're playing, and maybe you're getting a one-word clue for this. You're getting maybe some lyrics or a key phrase from that film, and you're trying to give that to your team for them to guess it. It's one of those ones that's super simple, and you can sort of go, right, these are your cards, look at them, you're going to put some face down on these three categories, one of them being that, right, for this card you can only give a one-word clue, this one you're giving the lyrics, that sort of thing, and then, right, turn the timer and go. Right, you're trying to, right, here's the phrase, and they're like, I don't know, and you're like, how do you not know? It's like an iconic phrase or an iconic lyric from that song. Okay, what about this one? You just know how to play it, and as soon as it's sort of you're giving clues to your team, they're sort of answering, potentially answering right, potentially answering incredibly wrong, and it's just a lot of good fun. So Top of the Pops, the game, or Blockbuster, the game, great fun party game, and super, super lightweight at one. Currently on Board Game Geek, I have two games rated 10 out of 10. Now, there's a few that squeak in with like a 9.5 or a 9 that I do think are fantastic. But there's two games at the moment which I do rate 10 out of 10. Now, you could say, certainly for one of them, that I have improved them from the base game. So does my rating count for the base game or my version of it? Well, you can decide. First of all, it is Terraforming Mars. Terraforming Mars is a fantastic, relatively heavyweight game where you are a corporation in space terraforming the planet of Mars. You are building forests of greenery around cities. The greenery is going to be boosting the oxygen. You're going to be throwing heat at the planet to warm it up. And then hopefully that will help you in turn melt some ice to gain some ocean tiles. You'll play other things that put ocean tiles into play. They're the 3 terraforming factors that you're trying to do. That's going to bump your score up for doing that, but so will building cities on the planet and so much more. Maybe doing microbes, maybe having a fleet, because apparently that's one of the things. There's floaters in one of the expansions, which I really think they could have used a better word for, thinking what floaters are to most people that speak English. Let's not dwell on that though. But yes, the base game, the art's not fantastic, but it's still pretty decent in my opinion. But it did need some upgrades. It needed the upgrades in terms of the player boards. So, the base game, not really a 10 out of 10, but my version, I've got dual layer player boards. I've got 3D tiles for a neoprene mat in the middle of the board. So that's pretty damn shiny and a pretty damn good game as well. I really do like Terraforming Mars, so that is one of my 2 games that I've rated 10 out of 10. At the moment at least. It goes up and down now and again. The other one, if you've seen my top 100 games, if you haven't, this might be a bit of a spoiler, so just jump ahead 30 seconds and go and watch that video series. Love Letter. It's just full of some great memories for me, that game, and it is a solid game. I can't really remember ever getting it to the table and someone coming out of it with a bad response to the game. Maybe it wasn't someone's favourite game. Maybe they enjoyed it a little bit. But a lot of people I've played it with for the first time, they go, oh, this is a lot of cards to remember. And within a few minutes, they are loving it. And I've literally seen people I've just taught the game to look it up on Amazon and add it to their basket while we're not even finished. We've not even finished the full game. We've handed some points out because we've done a few rounds and they're already buying it. I mean, it doesn't help that it's quite a cheap game as well. It's like £10 if you get it at the right place, right time. Sometimes it's 12, 13, 14 pounds, whatever. So it's fairly cheap, so it does mean that someone can just be like, an impulse purchase, yeah, I'll get that. But it is a cracking game, and it is my number 1 of all time. So it kind of makes sense that it's rated 10 out of 10. Let's talk about games which I have rated, maybe well or not well, but either do align with Board Game Geek or really don't align with Board Game Geek. So, top of that list of a difference between what I rated it and everyone else rated it is actually Neoville. So this was a relatively small, tiley sort of placement, but you also get these rather large cardboard towers that are going to actually be scoring you points. So you're trying to get them on big areas of certain terrain type. You can put like a little rover out that might score you some points. It was generally okay, and my rating is a 6.5. Solid, but not good, great, it's okay. I'd play it if someone really loved it and wanted to, because it's not a bad game. And actually it's 6.49 on Board Game Geek as the average rating. So I think for that one, I'm fairly consistent with everyone. The next one is Ticket to Ride Amsterdam. I rate it a 7 out of 10. The community on Board Game Geek, 7.01. So again, pretty accurate on my rankings. It's one of these small Ticket to Ride games, so it's not the best in my opinion because it doesn't feel like you get to build up over the course of the game. It's quite one of those quick, grab some cards, play them, and it's done. And I think those little city ones end too quickly. You don't certainly get the really cool, or get the opportunity to use the really cool, long, big trains. Like the maximum length of a train on the little cities Where in that one, little carts rather than train carriages is like 4 long rather than like 8 long on some of the big maps. And it just feels like on the big full tickets rides you can build up on turns, have a huge hand of cards and wang them down and claim a big route, and it's awesome. And that awesomeness just isn't quite captured by the smaller ones. However, they're quick, they're much more portable, and with the right people you can still have fun with them. You know, claiming some routes, trying to get some of the bonus points. I think the first one didn't have bonus points on it, but the rest have, like, either you connect the right cities or certain routes you'll get bonus points, depending on which city board you go for, because there's like London, New York, Amsterdam and Berlin's coming soon. So it's good. That's why, you know, it's a solid, good game. That's 7 out of 10 for me. But it's not going higher than that because it doesn't have that awesomeness that the full tickets rides offer. And now let's go for the games that I differ most from Board Game Geek. So let's jump in, and this is an interesting one because it is a fairly liked game. It's rated 6.66, so that's 3 6s, but we'll pass on that. Tokyo Highway, I rate a 3 out of 10. Now that seems really harsh, and I really wanted to like this game. I only played the 2-player version, maybe the 4-player one feels a bit better, but I just found there was 2 elements that I liked individually smushed together and they did not work for me. There's the puzzle aspect of working out how can I best build this that I'm scoring lots of points, and then there's the dexterity element of being able to do it. And I just found often in the gameplay I would think, oh, this route, if I could put this stick and balance some cards on it here, it would be fantastic points wise, but I'm not going to do it because if I knock stuff over I've lost. So I'm going to go for a lesser placement over here. And it just felt like those 2 things were fighting against each other. The sort of dexterity fun of trying to manage to do it versus the I'm just here, if I knock it over, I've lost. So let's just score some points and maybe make it hard for an opponent to do something or whatever. It just felt like those 2 things were fighting against each other for me to find it fun. But apparently a lot of people enjoyed it a lot more than me. The next one is Patchwork Doodle. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the original Patchwork, mostly because I don't like the button currency, effectively. I think that slows things down and it didn't necessarily need to be there. The time mechanic of how, you know, you're spending time, I think that's a fantastic part, and the buttons just sort of got in the way of that. So that is rated 6.60 by everyone else, and I have rated it a 4 out of 10. Maybe I should probably have rated it a 3 out of 10, so it would have been even bigger of a difference, because if Tokyo Highway deserves it, this game does as well. It's perfectly playable, but I would never advise anyone to play it. Effectively, we found it was just colouring squares in. Not quite at random, but until the very, very last turn of the game, it hardly mattered what you did. The cards would come out, you'd colour some stuff in, you'd work from the bottom to the top. None of the sheets would be that hard to fit on. And it just felt, literally, you play the game in 10 minutes, the first 8 minutes were pointless. And the last part, it wasn't that much better. That's my opinion of it. I try not to put games down too much, but I didn't like that one too much. And the other one here is Love Letter. Its average is a 7.5. I rate it a 10. So yeah, I'm massively over on that one after poo-pooing the other previous 2. But I hope you've enjoyed this, a dive into some Board Game Geek stats. Just a little bit different sort of video I thought I'd do for hitting the 2,000 subscriber mark. And as always, thank you for watching and have a great day gaming. And if you want a bonus stat while you're trying to decide, should I watch another video from this guy? Well, they've got 27 of the games in Board Game Geek's current top 100. Well, I don't know if that's a good number or a bad number. Just over a quarter of them are in the collection, though. So yeah, hope you watch some more stuff, and until next time, bye!